We're doing it live. Here we go. Game 2 of the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs. The Nashville Predators in Raleigh, North Carolina at the Carolina Hurricanes, trying to even it up at 1-1. I'm Lucas Panzica of 104.5 The Zone. He is Alex Daugherty of A to Z Sports Nashville. You know him for his excellent Preds coverage. As we get closer, Alex, to Game 2 coming up here in about half an hour. Want your involvement. Hit us in the chat. Questions, comments, concerns. What do you want to see as we wait on the Preds lineup that will come out any minute now? If it has not just now come out, we will keep you posted on that. Karen O'Keefe, hello. Good to see you again. Guys, help us out here. Let's discuss what we want to see from the Preds in Game 2 after 5-2 loss on Monday. We are on the Zone's Twitter and Twitch, on A to Z Sports, YouTube, and Facebook live streams. Alex, how are you?
I am doing great. I'm ready to watch Game 2. This is going to be this is in many ways, this is the series for Nashville. I mean, this is if they find a way to split this home, the first two home games in Carolina, they come back into Nashville a completely different team. They could come back and gain home ice advantage and really be in the driver's seat. If they lose, boy, it's going to be a hard road back. So I'm really looking forward to seeing this. We do have the lineups. I don't know if you want me to go ahead and talk about those.
Let's do it. Dive in.
So the big name that everyone's been looking for, Ellis Tolvanen, is in tonight. He is in the lineup. It looks like he is going to play on the second line with Mikael Granlund and Luke Kunin. It looks like Calle Jarnkrok is not in the lineup, which is interesting. It looks like he got bumped for Ellis Tolvanen. So sorry, these just came out, so you're just getting our reactions, live here. Another interesting addition, really not a change at all from Monday. Erik Goodbranson is back in the lineup for Game 2. That is a surprise to me. I thought he would be sitting. He will be on the third pairing with Matt Benning. So the biggest changes I see: Ellis Tolvanen in on the second line for Calle Jarnkrok, and Erik Goodbranson still in on the bottom pairing. Dante Fabro doesn't look like he's going to play. So. Wow. I'm interested to see how this is going to turn out. What do you think?
Okay. Let's zoom in here to the move of putting Ellis Tolvanen on that second line. Calle Jarnkrok on the way out. Ellis Tolvanen in. Calle Jarnkrok, a guy who is tied for the team leading goals, right, for the Preds this season. 13 goals, tied with Granlund. Only 2 of those goals have come on special teams. It's been flipped around when it comes to Ellis Tolvanen. The majority of his production has come on special teams, and that has dipped in 5-on-5 play since his return from that lower body injury a few weeks ago. What's your instant reaction and takeaway from this move? This feels reactionary. This feels like a move that Preds fans would have made after Monday, except maybe they would have bumped out Matt Duchene on that third line. But what is your instant reaction? Not to Tolvanen being in the lineup, Tim Barber. I see you say you're surprised. Not to that, but to Calle Jarnkrok being the one to be dropped off.
Yeah, real quick, since you mentioned Matt Duchene, let me talk about the third line really quick. Matt Duchene is in. He's playing on the third line with Erik Haula, and Brad Richardson steps in for the third line. So I guess that line, didn't do much, but they did score a goal, so not too much to change there. All right, so Calle Jarnkrok, I was actually looking at it today. His underlying metrics are actually very good, and so that's why this is kind of surprising. He's a good two-way player. He can play center and wing. He's very versatile. He can play on any line. I'm a little surprised that Ellis Tolvanen takes his place because it looks like you said that this move is reactionary. I think that's a great way to put it because Ellis Tolvanen was the kind of the talk over of Preds fandom over the last couple of days because people thought, if he's in the game, they got 3 power plays, maybe he gets up there and scores a goal. I have my feelings on that. I really don't think he could have made a big difference. I'll be interested to see if he makes a big difference tonight. So, like Tim says, he's surprised that Calle Jarnkrok, Ironhook is his last name. That's in Swedish. I'm surprised. That's kind of a shocking move, especially because if you move Calle Jarnkrok down a slot, if he goes to the third line, he makes sense there too. He's played a lot with Matt Duchene. So instead, Brad Richardson gets in there. The fourth line is the same. Jakob Trenin, Colton Sissons, Tanner Jeannot. That line is back. Matthew Olivier now out, I guess. So, and the other, I just noticed this. Ryan Ellis and Roman Josi have been split up. They were not very good in game one either. So
No.
Roman Josi is now with Alex Carrier, and Matthias Ekholm is with Ryan Ellis. This is all just now happening. Keep in mind these lines can change, but this is some significant changes for John Hynes.
Let's hear from John Hynes on this. He spoke earlier today about changing the lineups and what is going into that. I'll let him take it. This is about 30 seconds from John Hynes earlier today in his media availability.
Well, there will be lineup changes, yes, and some of them are performance-based, and some of them have a couple question marks of if guys are going to be ready to play from a health perspective. So I think we'll have to find out a little bit later today on that. And, there's a lot of discussion about lineup changes and who comes in and who comes out. But there are guys that I'm sure you expect watching the team and following the team that you're expecting these guys to be big-time players in big-time games and drive the team. And that's the expectation.
Who did you expect, Alex Daugherty, to leave the lineup and to stay in the lineup? Was Calle Jarnkrok one of those guys? As he leaves, Ellis Tolvanen comes in on the second line.
No, that is not who I was expecting. I actually kind of thought there was a chance Victor Arvidsson would come out, and maybe Ellis Tolvanen would step into there. I also thought that Eric Branson would come out, the third pairing defenseman. I thought Dante Fabro would come in. When I hear the second part of that clip, so the second part of that clip is from a question he had later about his main group playing better. So I think that really is about Roman Josi and Ryan Ellis, and splitting them up is an interesting way of getting to them. Roman Josi, I think I'm not really worried about him. I think he's a guy that he's still an elite player. He's still a Norris Trophy level player. I don't know that Ryan Ellis has been really what we need him to be, or what the Preds need him to be. So that's kind of who I thought. I thought Victor Arvidsson coming out would make sense. There was a small part of me that thought maybe Matt Duchene would come out, but I didn't think they would actually pull the trigger, and they didn't. So, and Erik Haula just scored. You can't pull him out. So, it's a really interesting lineup tonight. I think it's going to be, I don't know how they're going to play. I mean, you've got some decent speed on each line, but that third line is really the one that you wonder, where's the scoring going to come from? Can Matt Duchene get it going? I mean, it's just that's going to be interesting to me tonight.
Yeah, for me, the biggest key from that John Hynes bit was performance-based results. Yes, Matt Duchene had an assist on the Erik Haula goal, correct? That made it 2-2 in the second period on Monday.
Right.
But other than that point, how did you evaluate Matt Duchene's performance on Monday? And when you look at performance-based results, how does Matt Duchene factor into that?
So let's actually go back for a second, because I talked about this on Twitter today. So, Matt Duchene is a guy that has dropped in the lineup ever since he got here. When he signed in July of 2019, David Poyle, at that time, Peter Laviolette, were saying this is 1A and 1B with Johansson and Duchene. It's going to be those two guys at the top. And there was even competition over, who's the first line center. And Laviolette was joking, well, don't tell Johansson he's the second line because he wants to be the first line. So, there's this competition, right? Ever since that day, Duchene has slowly slipped down the lineup. He's gone from second line center to second line wing, third line center, third line wing. He's even played a little bit on the fourth line in terms of ice time, not on the lineup card, but his ice time has been fourth line, right? So when you look at Matt Duchene, he is the guy that needs to be around shooters. He is a playmaking center. He looks to pass first. He uses his speed and his puck skills to create plays. And then he passes, he dishes. He's like a point guard in basketball. That's what he does. If you don't get him with some shooters, he's going to struggle. And he's been playing with Erik Haula, who's not a natural shooter. He's been playing a lot with Calle Jarnkrok, not a natural shooter. He's been playing some with Rocco Grimaldi, who's a decent shooter. He's been playing a lot with Victor Arvidsson, who only shoots. But the guy needs, there was a time early on in Matt Duchene's career, he played a lot with Filip Forsberg. Well, Filip Forsberg is obviously the best offensive player. You put Matt Duchene with Filip Forsberg over the course of an 82-game season, he is going to be the $8 million center that Ryan Johansson is kind of not either. So, man, it's really interesting to watch the trajectory of this player. So, I know we talked the other day, and then I'll give you a chance to respond here. Sorry.
No.
The Matt Duchene usually has a postseason bump. You usually see a little increase in production into the postseason.
Yeah, you've talked a lot about that.
Yeah, and he did get an assist Monday night, so he got a point in that game. you have to credit that. You need to give that guy better line mates. Brad Richardson is not the guy that needs to be with Matt Duchene. Matt Duchene needs to be on the top line or at least on the second line with good shooters.
Let me ask you this. If Matt Duchene was not Matt Duchene, if Matt Duchene was a Calle Jarnkrok who has been dropped from the lineup, would he still be in the lineup at this point just based on performance? If he was not their 7-year, $8 million a year man, still be in him. How much of this is just holding on to that shred of hope that playoff form does come around in a bigger way?
I actually think he would. I don't think that, the Matt Duchene that we've seen has been basically not that different from what he's been in the past. It's just he's not getting the finishing. And again, he's not usually the finisher. I mean, he's a decent shooter. He's not a bad shooter or anything, but he's not usually the finisher. I mean, in order to get a point on the ice, someone's got to put the puck in the net, right? That's what's got to happen to make that happen. He doesn't have guys that can consistently do that. So, I think they thought Tolvanen would be that guy, and he was obviously good on the power play, but we're talking 5-on-5. He's not really been consistently a 5-on-5 threat. So I do think Matt Duchene wouldn't be benched in the same way that maybe other players would because of the price tag. But, I didn't think Kyle Turris would get benched, and he was a $6 million player. So and he got benched for 8 games. And honestly, look, I don't want to scare anybody or send any alarm bells, but the trajectory of Kyle Turris and the trajectory of Matt Duchene looking pretty similar right now. You hope it doesn't end the same way with a buyout or something like that, but they got this Seattle draft coming up. I don't know. So, I'm putting several carts before the horses here, but
sure.
The trajectory does not look good unless they give him more time, unless they give him more ice time, more time with good players, that kind of thing.
Pivoting a little bit, going back to Ellie Tolvanen, coming in for Calle Jarnkrok, because I think that is the biggest takeaway from this lineup change. Although splitting up Roman Josi and Ryan Ellis certainly sticks out. As Karen O'Keefe says, she believes Josi will play better tonight. Alex, I believe you agree with that. Tim Barber says he likes the defensive breakup. All right, so let's stick with that here for the moment. What does that mean to you? Because when I look at it, obviously UC Saros needs to be the best player on the ice for the Predators tonight, right? Or he's at least the most important player for the Predators tonight and throughout this series. If the Preds are going to be able to hang in there during the aggressive and consistent forecheck of the Hurricanes and the flurries that are inevitably going to come, it's got to be those guys, right? It's got to be Roman Josi and Ryan Ellis and whoever they're paired with, whether it's with each other or with somebody else, Alex Carrier, Eric Goodbranson, who's back in the lineup tonight. What do you need to see from those guys that you did not see on Monday?
Okay, so I don't know who it was that said that Roman Josi would play better tonight, but I do agree with that. Roman Josi has a tendency of bouncing back big time whenever he has a bad game. I can't give any specific examples, but it's happened throughout his career. He's had some bad games in the past, and the guy usually bounces back pretty immediately. So I think he's going to be fired up. Honestly, it sounds weird, but I feel like we saw some jitters. I think we saw some playoff jitters. Maybe it was the Carolina crowd. He hadn't played in front of 12,000 people in a long time.
That's a great point.
Could have been the jitters. I mean, he was a little iffy with the puck. He made his decisions weren't great. His skating was fine, but Roman Josi didn't have a good game. The pairing also didn't work. So I think that it makes sense to switch because that pairing was just bad. Balance it out. We also know that Ekholm and Ellis together has been a great pairing in the past. So that's a great pairing that he knows that works. And Josi and Carrier have played well too. So I kind of wonder if maybe Roman Josi is going to play a more defensive-centric game and not activate as much because Alex Carrier did a lot of that in game one. He did a lot of that late in the season. So I wonder if Alex Carrier is going to get let the leash off of him and let him activate more into the zone. Maybe Roman Josi stays back to protect just to get him back, kind of in his game. I actually am not that worried about the defense there. Again, I'm a little bit more worried about the bottom pairing. Eric Goodbranson really does not belong on the same ice with these players. He doesn't have the wheels. We saw him and Ben Harper get burned a couple times, and really should have been more than just one goal against them collectively. That they were pretty lucky that it wasn't more. But Goodbranson. When they got him, I pegged him as a guy that was a depth move for the end of the regular season. That's it. I did not see him as a playoff starter. This is a surprise to me because Branson does not need to be playing in this game. They have other guys that can play. Maybe Dante Fabro is battling an injury. I know that he had an injury late, but man, that pairing really has to worry you. Matt Benning is better. At least Ben Harper's not with him. Matt Benning has speed, but man, I would be worried about that pairing if I were a Preds fan tonight.
I'm with you there, and I'm with you in that Roman Josi bounces back tonight. And it did feel like jitters, right, on Monday because you saw a lot of uncharacteristic things. There was one moment that I think back to. I can't remember if it was the first or the second period in the neutral zone when the Preds were on the power play and where he's trying to put it into the zone, and he almost just whiffed on it and had to circle back and reset and lost about 10 seconds off of the power plays. Just uncharacteristic things like that from Roman Josi. I wonder how different that will look with maybe being a little more adjusted to this crowd, which to their credit was rocking on Monday night. Look, Alex, back to Ellie Tolvanen, which again was the focal point for Preds fans after Monday. Why wasn't he in the lineup after they went 0 for 3 on the power play? Yeah. After all the talk of game one, it's been about Tolvanen. And hindsight's 2020, right? I know you said in Monday's pregame with Will Bowling on the Buck Rising show Monday that you agreed with the decision to leave Tolvanen out of the lineup. But, hey, if the Preds go 0 for 5 on the power play, it'll look like a mistake. Yeah. Well, they went 0 for 3, and they only mustered 2 shots in those 3. It's very hard to argue that Ellie Tolvanen was the ultimate reason why the Preds lost on Monday. I don't think you can really argue that. Obviously, he brings a scoring threat, especially on the power play, but is it much more than that?
So here's the thing with Ellie Tolvanen. Look, he has a particular skill. He's like, that movie. He's got a particular set of skills. He is very good at finishing. He's a shooter. He has a laser. He can crank the snapshot from that left side as a left-handed shooter and hit the far corner as good as anyone. He's very, very good at it. He can also play on the right side and do the same thing, but he's been playing on the left. So he's very good at finishing. But the problem with the Preds power play was not shooting and finishing. As you mentioned, they had 2 shots. They had 2 shots on goal. They only had 4 shot attempts in about 5.5 minutes. 5.5 minutes of power play time, only 4 shot attempts, less than 1 per minute. That's terrible. Most teams get 7 or 8 shot attempts on a single power play. Maybe not that many, but they get quite a few successful ones, that is. So the problem with the Preds power play is not that they were pumping shots on net and no one had the accuracy to get it in the net. The issue was getting set up. All the playmakers were in the game. Look, Forsberg played, Johansson played, Duchene played, Haula played, Granlund. All those guys played on the power play. Josi. Those are your playmakers. Those are your passers, the ones that see the passes, that connect the passes, and also, by the way, the ones that enter the zone. Because while every power play starts with an offensive faceoff, you're going to have to get the puck into the zone on your own. So because they're going to clear it at some point. No, they were terrible at that. They could not enter the zone cleanly. Like you mentioned, Roman Josi had a couple flubs there too. So again, I'm not saying that Tolvanen doesn't make the power play better. He would have made almost no difference in that game because they didn't get any shots off. They couldn't get anything. Maybe he makes an impact just being there, but I feel like Carolina was so aggressive and just denying things at the blue line. There's no way that they could get in. So that was my hot take for today. I think most people actually kind of understood what I was trying to say.
Sure.
It makes sense if you think about it. If you have this idea in your head that he just makes the power play better, but he really only does it in one particular way. So you got to keep that in mind.
If you're just joining us, we are minutes away from puck drop. We're going to go just a couple quick hits here before we let Alex get back to covering the game, and we let you get to watching game 2 as the Preds try to tie up the series 1-1. Alex Daugherty, Lucas Panzica with you. We are live on 104.5 The Zone's Twitter and Twitch, and on A to Z Sports YouTube and Facebook live streams. Alex, outside of UC Saros, who's the most important player on the ice for the Preds tonight?
So real quick, I want to throw this in there because I just saw this on Twitter. Sorry, we're live. We're kind of taking
absolutely.
This information. Calle Jarnkrok is apparently ill tonight. An illness. Wow. That is why he's not playing. So that does shed some light on this. That makes a big difference. Maybe that is why that's why Tolvanen got the chance. So just,
and we were very surprised by that move. Why it was Jarnkrok, a guy who's tied for the team leading goals this season. Most of those goals outside of the power play and 5-on-5 play. So how big of a hit is that as we pivot real quick with that news?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, illness could be anything. I mean, I don't think it's COVID. We know it's probably not that. John Hynes said that they were all clear on that front. So I guess it's, I don't know, playoff flu. I have no idea.
They have playoff beards. I don't know if they have playoff flu. That's not great news. If Tolvanen, how much of this do you think is because Jarnkrok is out, the reason for Tolvanen being in, or do you think we would see Ellie Tolvanen tonight regardless?
No, I think that's it. I think that's absolutely it. If Jarnkrok is healthy, I think he's in because he does too many things well. So I think that sheds a light on a lot of it. So
okay, so back to that. Outside of Josi Saros, who I think we both agree is the most important Predator during this series and throughout the postseason, who's the most important player on the ice for the Preds tonight as they try to even up the series? I'm
going to go with Matt Duchene. I think there's so much writing on him having a good game. I don't know what he can do with that line, but if he comes in and plays the way that he can play and gets better line, I don't know. Maybe Matt. I'm rethinking that because Matt Duchene, I don't know that he has the line mates to do it. Look, it's going to take a team effort. There needs so many players to step up and play kind of above their level. I mean, the whole top line with Forsberg, Johansson, Orbits, and all of them. I'm going to stick with Matt Duchene just because that was kind of the first one that came to mind, and we've talked a lot about him. But, I think if any one of their players just kind of transcends their game and becomes a different player and becomes better than they normally are, they'll be on top. I mean, they'll come out with a win. But, of course, it does come to Josi Saros. So we're really talking about the second player in that tier. Duchene, the entire Jofa line, Tolvanen stepping in. Granlund needs to have a better game. Luke Cunnin, who's been pretty good down the stretch. We didn't really hear from him on Monday. So I think there's so many options to pick. I'd be interested to hear which one you went with as well.
Again, and I'm with you, it's tough because John Hynes said this today and he said it leading up to the postseason. I feel like he thinks the media keep trying to get him to focus in on individuals. And he's saying, guys, that's not how this works. Our depth got us here. It was not Philip Forsberg hitting a hot scoring streak. Like Ellie Tolvanen scoring on the power play helped, but it's going to have to be across the board. It cannot be one or two players getting hot. So I'm with you. And so that's why it's so hard to pinpoint, right? So Matt Duchene, I guess, is the go-to. You gravitate towards that because he's the big money guy that's been underperforming. And on the third line, I think it's Ellie Tolvanen because that's the big change. Ellie Tolvanen comes in for Calle Jarnkrok, a guy who has had great scoring production, some of the best for the Preds this season. So if he cannot match what Jarnkrok's been able to do, then the Preds take a step back offensively into the offensive zone. But look, as we wrap things up here, I have two quick hits for you, Alex, as we get close to puck drop. Preds were out hit 56-49 on Monday. That was a key stat I took away because we talked ad nauseum about the need for physicality and for that to be the X factor to push the Preds over the top like it was at the end of the regular season. Am I overrating that stat from Monday? If the Preds are out hit tonight, do they have a shot to beat the Hurricanes?
If they are out hit, if the Preds are out hit tonight, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
So hits are a little bit of a tricky stat. Not to go too much into it, but
right.
Obviously you can't get a hit without if you have the puck. So if you are being out hit, it usually means you have the puck more. But so keep that in mind. But however, the idea of a hit still stays the same. If the Predators can manhandle, can physically body up those Carolina Hurricanes better than they did on Monday, and also respond better to when the Carolina Hurricanes do it, they'll have a better game. The fourth line, they're getting the start tonight. The Trennan, Sissons, Janot, they've been getting the start, the latter half of the season. I feel like they've gotten starts more than any other line because they come out with such energy. But the physical game was a part of Monday that was kind of a surprise that Carolina was so physical considering how fast they are. The fact that they can do both is pretty scary if you're the Preds. But yeah, they're gonna have to out hit them. They're gonna have to outplay them and win those 50-50 pucks in the corner better than they did on Monday. That's for sure.
Jamie McFerrin asks, Forsberg, Duchene, and Tolvey, what do you think of that possibly being a line? I would have a hard time seeing the Jofa line being broken up in favor of Matt Duchene and for Ellie Tolvanen. Real quick, Alex, what do you think of that?
That would be, I think they've tried that before. Something similar. I think that's a good line. I mean, you put Duchene with another excellent playmaker and a great shooter.
That's where he excelled on Monday in the regular season finale when he was with Forsberg and with Johansson.
I think he was with Johansson and Forsberg, or Johansson and Forsberg. So Tolvanen will be a great addition. Yeah, I don't know if you'll see that tonight because they've already kind of set the lines, but you can switch him up in a game anytime. So.
Last thing, Alex, as we sign off here, in your estimation, could you see the Preds crawling out of a 2-0 or an 0-2 hole, I should say, in this series if they were to lose tonight?
No, I really can't. Tonight's the series, in my opinion. They go down 0-2. They'd have to win at least 3 straight games. And really, you'd have to win kind of 4 in order to win it at home in Game 6. I don't see it. I think it would be too big of a hole to climb. This team, the Carolina Hurricanes, are too good to get beaten, or too good to lose 3 or 4 games in a row. I mean, I don't think they've done that all year.
Well, we'll see what happens. Moments away from puck drop, and Alex Daugherty will be back for post-game coverage on 104.5 The Zone and A to Z Sports streaming platforms alongside Will Bowling as they wrap up whatever happens in Game 2 in what will surely be a rocking arena in Raleigh, North Carolina. Preds trying to even it up at 1-1 after a 5-2 loss on Monday. Those are the storylines. Go ahead.
I think we got our tech issue, so we will have a post game, and I will be there. So
we're good to go, and looking forward to it. I'll be tuning in, seeing y'all's reaction. Those are the storylines. Roman, Josi, and Ryan Ellis are split up. Tolvanen in, Jarnkrok out due to illness, and the Preds try to even up the series. Alex, thanks so much. Enjoy the game.
Yeah, you too. See you later.
We'll talk to everybody post game. Puck drop coming up. Preds at the Canes for Game 2.